Wonder what happens when passion meets discipline in the world of finance? Today's guests build Greenberg Financial Group on those exact principles, and the results speak for themselves. Stick around, this is going to be a powerful conversation. Hello, everyone. Caren Glasser here, and today I am thrilled to sit down with Dean Greenberg, whose journey is a true example of how vision, integrity, and hard work can create a lasting impact. So, Dean, welcome to the Author Spotlight.
Thank you for having me, Caren.
Well, I am delighted. You have quite a background, and we're just going to be touching on pieces of it. Specifically, I'd like to just kind of start at the beginning, not when you were born, but, with Greenberg Financial Group. So take us back to the beginning of that, and what was the spark that got it all started?
Well, the spark that got it started was actually before that.
Okay.
When I was working for a corporation in New York named Ford Motor Company. And I realized at that time, what I needed for myself and my journey of growth was not to work for a corporation. So it was one of those things, and I understand why people do it, and I understand how you climb the ladders, and I understand the pension at the end is the reward, but it wasn't exciting to me. So I wanted to go into something exciting. So at the time, I went back and got my MBA in finance and investments. Okay, and I thought I'd always be on Wall Street working. I thought that was going to be what would excite me. So that's how I kind of got started.
And then how did Greenberg Financial evolve, though? Because obviously you're not on Wall Street.
Well, Greenberg Financial evolved out of being what you called back as a stockbroker in the business. So in the 80s, when I was a stockbroker, it was like just selling stuff. And I've always said I'm the worst salesman in the world because, I don't like to be sold. I don't like to sell anybody. But what I like to do is educate people and do things. But that's not the way they were doing it. But it all starts back in 1987, how we got the Greenberg Financial Group. I was in Atlanta working for a company called J.C. Bradford. And there was 1987, that Monday when the market crashed.
Wow.
We had 600 and some odd brokers in the office in the company, and I was the only one out of all of them that opened up a new account that day and was a buyer of stock and not a panicker of everything.
Wow.
And one of the reasons was I was always a strategist and I had cash, so I was buying. So the guy that opened the account, he's the main subject here. He came in, he gave me the $500,000. We ended up doing some other things to his account. And a week later, they told me all the stock that I owned was I never got it. I said, what do you mean I never got it? They said, well, they couldn't cross it in the back office because back then when you did 1 billion shares, they weren't prepared for it. I said, okay, I understand that, but I think my client needs to be made whole here. He came in, he paid for it, he expects it. And IBM now, which was 106 or so, is now 140.
Right.
He deserves to make that money. And so the next day I come in, they had my box waiting for me and they fired me.
Oh my goodness.
And so that was one of those things that it was a turning point in your life. And what I realized was didn't want to be in the business anymore, not because I didn't like the business, but because I didn't like the way they did the business. I cared about the clients. The clients came first, and that's always what I've always believed. Right. So it was the same time. A lot of people go through it in their early 30s. Your turning point in your life. You get fired. You get divorced. You have nothing. You feel like you just want to shoot yourself, and you say, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I got to figure out a way to do something."
Right.
I had friends that were in Tucson, Arizona, that I knew from high school that were supposedly financial planners. I moved out to Tucson, Arizona. And the next thing I know, we're getting involved with doing real estate. I realized everything they were doing was wrong. Everything they were doing was wrong. And I told them, guys, this is just going to get you in trouble. I'm not going to do it. And they said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I've always had this idea about managing money for a fee. Tell us. Boom. We did it. We started managing money for a fee. Everything I told them happened. They got run out of the business, sued out of the business. And I then said, I'm never letting anyone take my business away. And that's when I started.
What's important with all this, because there's a thread and things that I've read about you and things that I've read that you've said from the very beginning, that education, discipline, and integrity are at the heart of your work. And just what you said, you stood up for a client, and in turn, it did not go well for you, but it looks like it went very well for you because you were able to pivot eventually. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger, I think.
It's true. And you don't know what your journey is going to be.
Right.
The last thing I thought was a kid from New York would be living in
Right.
Tucson, Arizona,
Right.
and loving it. You know what I'm saying? And growing a business and doing the things you want. But it's like in my book, it's all about understanding who you are and
Right.
what you want and what makes you tick and how you're going to get there.
Well, that's a great segue. Let's just jump in, right? Let's jump into the book. The book is called The End Game. And this is a cover. You can see it. It's launching today. It's in the bookstores. You can go and get it. It's across the board. We put it up as Kindle, but it's paperback. You can get it in all different functionalities. But let's talk about The End Game. What's it about?
Well, let's first look at the cover. People are like, what is that on there? Because if they're not sports people, football people, they're like,
Right.
That's kind of a weird looking cover.
Right.
And the end game. Well, obviously that's something to do with that. Well, that's a football play. And why is that important? It's because I've been a coach also for 25 years.
Right.
That's one of the reasons I love doing what I do in Arizona, because it allows me to also do something I love to do, because the markets close at 1, 2 o'clock. I'm able to go at night and coach kids and make them better. So at the end of the day, everything I do is got a plan. You play a football game, you have a game plan. If you're going to be a financial advisor, you need to have a game plan. So the whole book is about planning.
Right.
And when the plan isn't working, what do? In a football game, what do? You change it.
Right.
You do in real life, you change it. So many people won't change. They won't accept what's going on because they think they're a failure. And you have to look at where you want to get to and understand it's not a straight line. So the end game is about retiring, getting to that part and retiring. And in the book, it's not about how you're going to make the money or what you're going to do, even though there are some suggestions on how you get there, but it's about understanding who you are, what your partner wants, what you want out of life, what do you want to do those next 10, 20, 30 years of your life.
Why was it important to do this now? Why is the book coming out now?
The truth? I started this a while ago because pretty much someone said you should write a book. And I don't know, I just left it there. And then, my wife is actually an author. And I finally looked at it, I said, you know what, why don't you take this and co-write this with me and see what we can do with this and go. Because I'm not a great writer. Like my wife told me when I first started my radio show, you're going to be great because you're honest, but your English is horrible and your diction is worse. And I don't know what we can do with that, but I certainly can make sure that you stay truthful to everybody else. And so writing wasn't like my specialty, but it is hers. So we kind of collaborated on the fact I gave her what I wanted and she put it into like the terms that the person could understand. And it comes from, I guess, as I've gotten older and I see what's going on, I can't help everybody directly, but if they read this book, I can help them indirectly. Because I've talked to them about how they should talk to their financial advisors, what they want. It's nothing about how much money you're going to make me. It's all about who and what you are on an individual basis and putting a plan together that makes you happy and stressless and allows you to live the next 20, 30 years without worrying about running out of money.
So I'm guessing that you believe in this next line that I'm going to say from Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind. If your clients or if individuals don't know what they want at the end of the day, it's going to be pretty hard to make a plan. So
now, most people don't know, Caren. We have to get it out of them.
Right.
I mean, I do have that ability, and I've taught my team, like we've gone to a whole team approach. Like I got younger people. You have to have younger people in order to keep the legacy of your company.
Right.
Don't talk to them like you're 30 years old or 20 years old. Talk to them like you understand them at 60, 70, 80 years old. And that is the key. You need to know what they're doing. You have to know what their children are. You have to know what's going on. Taxes, Social Security, Medicare, all those things to be able to help somebody understand to put together their plan. And you've got to be able to talk to them. I've been born with that. God gives us a budget. One of my things he gave me was the ability to actually care about others and be able to talk to them. Not everybody can do that.
Right.
And so you have to learn to be able to do that so it doesn't come across as salesman's way.
How important is that in the world of finance, this skill, this superpower that you have that so many people don't have? I have to guess that's why you are so successful, is because people know you care.
100%. I've been doing a radio show for 35 years. What they hear on it is the same thing they see when they come here. You can't teach people to care, but if you don't care, you're not going to be very successful or really like the business, because you're always going to have to be building new relationships. Everything's about relationship building. And, people go for sales classes. I tell them go for relationship building classes.
Right.
Okay? If you learn how to build a relationship, and in our business, you don't have to be super close or friends. What you have to do is be able to listen and understand and to be able to communicate with them on what they want, not what you want.
We say whiff it. What's in it for them? So you literally get into their heads, and you're not going to tell them to do something. They need to know what direction to go in, and you're there to make that assistance.
Yeah, well, with today's technology and the programs we have, that's how anyone can guide them through and start with those questions. You know what I mean? Because it's like, what do you want to do? What do you need to do? What's your budgets? How much money you got coming in? It's a lot of work to get to that point.
Right.
And if people aren't willing to do that, the key is here. You see, planning used to be insurance people coming to you and say, let's do this plan, and they all sell you insurance.
Right.
That's why it didn't work.
Right.
Now planning's about what you want as a person,
right,
how you want to live your retirement, and then you back into how much money you have and what it's going to give you that income stream. It's all about income stream when you retire. It's not about how much you can make. If you have a high net worth, obviously you get a higher income stream.
Right.
What kind of lifestyle do you want to live?
Right.
And then are we able to do that for you?
So, I'm assuming it's much easier to reach those goals if you start sooner and not later. Is it too late for people that are in the golden years, 60, 70, to start doing something?
No, their planning's different. Okay. You come to me and you're 70 years old. Okay. Obviously you got what you have. Right. Now, how are we going to make that last for the next 20, 25 years? Right. Their planning is, who am I going to give this money to? One of the big things I do is, because obviously people that have wealth don't have to worry about how they're going to live day to day. But what they want to do is, what am I going to do with my money? Right. I always talk to them about spending their money while they're alive with their children so they learn. If they don't have Roth IRAs, help the grandchildren, the kids with Roth IRAs. If they're going to you're going to give them money. Don't give them money to pay off a credit card. Give them the money as a down payment for a house. Give them the money to start a business. Be part of that. Mentor them. Be mentors to them while you're alive, instead of just giving them millions of dollars later on and they're going to blow it.
I love that. And to go back to your point about relationships, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so it doesn't matter if they're not close to you, but if they know you from an advertisement or a radio show, a podcast, or from somebody else, and they like you and they trust you, they're going to do business with you. 100%. I have a wonderful financial planner, but I've had multiples in the past that I just didn't have that same fit. Right. I found the person who I knew cared about me and cared about what our money could or could not do. And I totally get that. And I know that you are that person. So you mentioned your podcast. I want to let people know where they can listen live. They can listen live every Sunday to you and your team from 8 to 10 a.m. on iHeartRadio, or they can listen to you anytime, whenever they want, wherever they get their streaming, podcasts, and it's all over. Or they can go to your website, and we're going to put the link down below in the comments so they can just click on it and go check it out. So what do you hope people take away from this book? They read the book. They're gonna obviously get a lot out of it. But what is that one thing that you hope they just go?
Remember, the book isn't about telling people how to make money.
Right.
The book is about people understanding who they want and what they want versus what they need. Okay. You always start with your needs and your wants, but then it shows you how to plan stuff, and it tells you the type of advisor. Really, at the end of the day, it tells you the type of advisor you need to be with and talk to. And if your advisor isn't doing that, you got to find someone else that's going to do that. That's kind of at the end of the day what it's about. I'm a big supporter of financial advisors that work on fee business. I'm not about people that are out there just trying to make people money, commissions here and putting money in their pocket. That is not a plan. A plan is someone that is going to sit down and spend time with you and review it year after year. And then at the end, the one thing that we do differently than others is we actually do manage the money. Okay. So we put that whole plan together, but I've been a money manager since the 80s. I'm not giving it to someone else so I can blame them when it doesn't work. Right. I want to be accountable, because when you're accountable, you can make the changes you need to do to make it work. Say, Caren, you got all these things and all of a sudden you have a health problem, right? You don't care about how much more money you make. It's like, how much money do I have that I can pay for the things I need right now?
Exactly.
And we can instantly change the whole portfolio, the whole mix, to be able to help you for your needs. And that's what's really important. And when you're dealing with outside people, they can't do that. They, because everyone has a mandate of what they have to do.
So I think we kind of answered the question of what happens when passion and discipline in the world of finance meets. We get Dean Greenberg. You are the epitome of what I would hope everyone would strive to be. And so I thank you for that. I also want to thank you for coming on the show. If you have questions for Dean, put them in the comments down below. We're all over the place. It's being streamed everywhere. So put them in the comments. We'll make sure that Dean gets them. If you have any questions for him, I'm sure he'd be happy to respond. And we just want to thank you, Dean, for sharing your journey.
I just want to end with this, okay?
Sure.
The biggest reason people don't want to go, let's put it this way. 75% of people say they need a plan. Only 32% of people actually have a plan. Why? They're afraid they don't have enough. They're afraid they're going to be embarrassed. They're afraid that they don't understand what they actually have. Put that fear away and start today, because if you don't plan today, that plan just gets harder and harder as you get closer to where you're going to be.
You heard it here first, everyone. Go out, give somebody an awesome day, and we'll see you next time on The Author's